Over the last 2, 3 days, I've taken a look at the two SEC head coaching vacancies that have popped up and become available, and mentioned the names that have been floated about, gave my thoughts, and sort of a rundown of who I think will take the job and who's a pipe dream. And of course, we're talking about Texas A&M and Mississippi State for those that don't really follow college football. I also talked about the potential vacancy in Gainesville, Florida, as Billy Napier, as much as I like the guy, his grasp on that job is very, very tenuous at best. But in that same time frame, another fairly prominent job has become available, and this from the king of the group of fives, as Boise State has fired head coach Andy Avalos. Avalos was in his third year as coach of the Broncos, his alma mater. Went 22-14, was the 2022 Mountain West Coach of the Year. Won the Frisco Bowl, his only bowl game as head coach of his alma mater. 5-5 this year, was just coming off a 42-14 thrashing of New Mexico. Another scenario where a coach picks up a monstrous win over his opponent and gets fired right afterwards. Actually, the Broncos have won 2 of their last 3, so still very much bowl eligible, although 5-5 for Boise State standards, not what they expect. And believe me, the bar has been raised. But according to reports, there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. That there's a lot of tension, and that the locker room's fractured, that, dare I say, Avalos may have lost his locker room, that there's just a lot of problems there, and we'll just leave it at that. This is a different situation that we will be talking about with Boise State, because last 5 coaches that were in charge of the Bronco program all left for other head coaching gigs. This is usually a springboard job for something else. It's I'm not even going to say it's not often that a football coach at Boise State gets fired, because this is the first time it has ever happened in program history. And that's not hyperbole. Look it up. Only time we ever came close to seeing a coach get fired was when Skip Hall retired all the way back in 1992, or actually stepped down, if you will, due to lack of performance. So this is unheard of for somebody to get fired. But that ought to tell you how bad things have got. He was let go with a winning record. Again, do with that as you will. Like I did with the other ones, we're going to look at some of the candidates whose names have been dropped, and I'm going to let you know what I think is going to happen, why it will, and why it won't. And I'm not going to spend a whole video mentioning every single one that's been floated out there so far. I'm just going to take a look at the 3 most prominent ones that I think are most likely. And I'm going to throw it out there right off the bat. You're not going to hear the name Chris Petersen on here. I've seen a lot of Boise people and a lot of fans of college football floating this as a possible reunion. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. I think Petersen is very happy in his retirement. I think when he walked away from the Washington job a couple of years ago and handed things over to Jimmy Lake, which did not go well, I think he walked away for good. I think he's accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish in college football. I think the grind was getting to be just way too damn much for him, and I think he's had enough. So I don't expect a reunion between Petersen and Boise State. Have stranger things happen? Sure, but I would not put too many high expectations on that happening. Now, I do see one reunion being very possible, and this one's painstakingly obvious. It's Brian Harsin. Frankly, if you want my honest opinion, I know, and I don't blame Harsin for wanting to spread his wings and fly outside of Boise, Idaho, but frankly, he should have never taken that Auburn job to begin with. Okay, we're talking the biggest square peg and round hole. I was in Honolulu visiting one of my best friends when news broke that Auburn had hired Harsin away from from Boise, and my exact reaction was, "Wait, what? Who? What?" And not that I thought Harsin was a bad coach, and I even said to my friend, I said, "Look, Harsin's a fine coach. He's a very good coach, but to me, Harsin and Auburn is oil and water. You know, it doesn't mix." Harsin to me is a Pacific Northwest type of guy. If he'd have gone to Oregon State, Washington State, I'll even say one of the San Francisco-based schools, area schools, I would think it's perfectly fine. But him in the Deep South, it did not seem like a good mix for either party, and it wasn't. It was a pretty disastrous whirlwind marriage. It did not last. Now the Boise State job is open. And look, if you want to talk the best fit, there's no one better for it than Harsin. We know what he can do there. We know what he is to Boise State. The guy was born in Boise, raised in Boise, played high school football in Boise, played quarterback for the Broncos for 3 different head coaches. Came up the ranks in the coaching ranks with Boise, was a head coach with Boise for a fairly long time. I mean, think about it. You look at some of the coaching tenures that have happened in Boise, from Dirk Cutter. Hell, Houston Nutt stayed there 1 year and got the hell out of Dodge, left for another head coaching job. So, for people that use springboard opportunities or use Boise as a springboard, Harsin stuck around for quite a long time. And now that he's spread his wings and decided to try upper waters and waters elsewhere, could he come back to Boise for good and realize the grass ain't necessarily greener on the other side? Absolutely. I think he realized that he wanted to test his mettle somewhere else, and it didn't work. And could he come home again? Sure. Would he be the best fit for Boise? Absolutely. I think of all the names on the list that I've seen, he makes the most sense. And it makes the most sense for both sides. You know what you're getting in Harsin. You know you're getting a winner. For Harsin, he knows that he's pretty much got job security in Boise for as long as he wants it. Here's where it's not going to happen. It's only been 3 years since he walked out that door. Are there still ruffled feathers? Are there still people within the Boise athletic department and Boise boosters, never mind the fans, which they are a big factor as well? Are there still people that are pissed off that he left them? That does play a factor, believe it or not. And it's only been 3 years, okay? Actually, it's been under 3 years if you want to be technical about it, but is it too soon? This guy's going to come back in and say, look, I made a stupid decision. I'm sorry. Okay. Will that be enough? Again, if he takes a job and winds up winning 10 games next year, I think all will be forgotten. And I know time heals all wounds, but is this enough time? I don't know. Another name, speaking of former Boise State quarterbacks and Boise State greats, Kellen Moore. Widely regarded as one of, if not the best player in school history. Another one, knows Boise very well. Has multiple years of coaching experience in the NFL as an assistant, as a coordinator, as a position coach. Has been an offensive coordinator since 2019. First with the Cowboys and then this year with the Los Angeles Chargers. Can run an offense. Run a highly proficient offense. Has worked with some really good and if not great players in the National Football League. I think would be could run a hell of an offense in the Mountain West Conference. Here's my question. Number one, how would he handle the NIL and recruiting? I mean, look, it's a different college game than when he played, okay? The NFL and college are 2 different worlds anyway, and what college has become is a whole different animal in its own right in the last 3 years. The game has changed, the landscape has changed. Moore would be coming into a whole different world. Never mind the fact that he's never been a head coach at any level. And on top of things, Moore's name has been mentioned more than once as a possible name to watch in NFL head coaching vacancies. Does he have his eyes on NFL jobs? I mean, is he going to want to come back to Boise State, which is great as Boise State is as a Power 6 school? Is he really going to turn that down if an NFL team comes knocking? Food for thought. Last name I'm going to throw out there is Jeff Choate, which is Texas's co-defensive coordinator. Another one, has some ties to Boise. Was an assistant from 2006 to 2011 under Chris Peterson. Was Montana State's head coach from 2006 to 2019, so he does have some head coaching experience. Won 28-22 there, led him to I believe it's the FBS playoffs, Division II. I'm still a decade later. I'm still fucking up the name, but led him to the playoffs. Led him actually on a fairly respectable run, which is not insignificant because they had scuffed a little bit in his predecessor's final years. So. And by the way, his replacement has continued the ball rolling. So Choate built a program that has sustained. knows the Northwest area. He's from Montana. So, he can recruit that part of the world. He's coached on also several programs. He's been on Washington State. He's been on Florida. He's been with Texas. So he knows the lay of the land. My only question about Choate is, again, we knew he could coach on the FBS level, FCS level. We know he can coach the Montana States. He'd be stepping up, coaching, this level. I know some people say, well, it's not that big as Boise State, Mountain West, that big of a step up from, maybe not. To me, he's a fairly safe bet. But what are your thoughts, guys? Let me know in the comment section below. Who do you think the next coach of Boise State is going to be? Do you think Andy Avalos was done wrong? Let me know. Comment section below. Thanks for tuning in.